All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Movie Talks and Chill. We're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I'm Gavin Butts.
I'm Patrick Wall.
And in this episode, before we begin, we did not record last week because, hey, what happened?
We got two natural disasters within a week and a half of each other.
Yeah.
And this one...
13 days.
Yeah.
We were a little bit on the fried side.
Yeah. Yeah, so with power outages and all that other...
Gas shortages.
Yeah, gas shortages, food shortages, every
Water
kind of
in
shortages.
apartments.
Water in cars, apartments.
Yeah.
I could probably blame my height shortage on that now, too. The damn hurricane.
I think that's a section in FEMA now. Yeah. Did your height not increase due to the hurricane?
Or did it even decrease?
Yeah. Are you actually slightly shorter?
Because I haven't eaten in 3 days. But no, in all seriousness, though, so we had Hurricane Milton came through. Luckily did not direct hit. It was the closest thing to a direct hit that we've ever had.
In the past 100 years.
Definitely caused enough damage.
30 miles, I think.
Yeah, 30 miles south of us, which is always, for those of you who don't know much about hurricanes, for those of you who just moved to Florida and still don't know that much about them, it's always good to be on the north or west side of the hurricane because that's where it pushes out the storm surge instead of pulling it in. However, you do get more winds and rain from the north side. But at the end of the day, it is slightly better. Less damage, I believe it is. So,
this is still kind of bad, but this meme that I saw was like the Florida sign, and it's because we've had so many people move here over the last after COVID and also during, but it was the Florida sign, and it says "Welcome to Florida. If you don't have a traumatic storm story, one will be provided to you shortly."
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
There's another meme out there that says, "Hi, my name's Jim Cantro. I will be your tourist guide this hurricane season."
Yeah, this initiation week, as we call it in Florida.
So, yeah, we did have the close thing to a direct hit. It did knock out a bunch of power, almost the whole area in Pinellas County, most of Sarasota, and a lot of other areas outside of that.
Tore the roof off the Tropicana field.
Yep. And then
dropped that crane downtown.
Yep.
Which was partially, because I'm sure nobody who works for the company is going to be listening to this, but they should have laid that down. That's the rule of thumb. When you're not using those lattice boom cranes that have the controls on the bottom that are machine based on the bottom, if you're not used or not going to be using it, or a storm's coming through, you're supposed to lay it down. It does take time, but so that's kind of why that happened.
Because
it's a lot of wind sway.
Yeah, nobody wants to waste money taking it down.
Yeah. So they just wasted it by destroying buildings.
Exactly.
I know this is a movie podcast, but how long would it have taken them to lay that thing down?
I don't know the exact time. I just know it takes a while. I mean, it's not something that you can do in like a couple minutes. I mean, it's like an hours long process, and you have to figure out where you're going to lay it down because those things obviously, they go up like 100, 200, maybe more than that feet. So you got to figure, do you have the room? Can you lay it down on a road? Is it going to block the road? Then you have to, it's a whole big thing. It's a process.
It's a process.
And they were so iffy of like how this thing was turning, and I think they thought, oh, it's going south, so it would probably be fine to leave it up here.
Yeah, we're going to be fine up here. Yeah. No, you still got 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Yes. So because of that, we'll be talking about, well, I'll let you announce it, but then I want to add something to it. So what do we...
So today we're going to be covering apocalyptic movies.
Yes.
And mainly being because my apartment or condo complex looks like it's a war zone out there now with all the furniture and drywall just sitting outside.
Well, and that's what I was going to say too is because it kind of reminded, I was telling people, they're like, well, what's it like? Friends of mine that aren't around here, out of state and whatnot. And I'm like, well, it's kind of like Mad Max because right now everybody's fighting for fuel and food. I'm like, so there was a couple stories that, it hit Wednesday night, late Wednesday night to early Thursday morning, was pretty much done by like 2 a.m. here.
Yeah.
But then,
I think that's around when I actually fell asleep.
Yeah.
Because it didn't feel like the windows were going to shatter into my face.
And I will say Publix did a great job because they were open that afternoon on Thursday.
Yep.
Like, I can't remember exactly what time, if it was like noon or 3. I know around 3 o'clock is when I found
I
out.
know that they closed at 7, but what time they opened, I couldn't tell you. I was still evacuated.
I just know by 3 p.m. someone's like, hey, Publix is open. Because I was like, oh, I want to, pick up a couple small things. But I went in there. So thank you, Publix, for being able to open and all the people that work there for getting that quickly. But they had very limited things. And you see people like running and scavenging stuff and then trying to get fuel. So I got gas at Costco on Friday. And I went in the afternoon, stupid. and like nobody had gas around here on Friday.
Yeah.
So Costco and like one or two small gas stations, I think, were able to sneak it in. But Costco had a steady stream coming in. I waited in line for an hour and a half. Luckily, everybody was pretty normal, going through because they had multiple tankers still coming through. So if they ran out, all the people waiting forever would still be able to get it, But there was one gas station. They said like the deputy sheriffs or the sheriff's department was getting a bunch of calls on Friday at this one Wawa or a couple of places that were open, lines of people, and there was a bunch of fights breaking out. And it was a lot, from what I understand, I didn't get to read the whole story or hear all about it, but my assumption was, I think part of it was because like people were getting gas, but also then filling up their gas tanks for like their generators or whatever. And so it was the only gas there. So everyone's like, we all just need it for our car.
Exactly. And there's all these people lining up for it. So after that, I think is when they started doing police escorts.
Yeah. So what they did, that's what I was telling people who were looking for gas. I'm like,
follow the cop car.
If you see a cop at a gas station,
they've got gas.
And they like toned it off, and they were basically doing it to where they had like one or two pumps.
Yeah. So they would have like, so when I got it over here Sunday down at the get my direction correct, down at the Wawa just on the other side of 19.
Yeah.
Or is that a...
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, Wawa right there.
Yeah.
They had the inner lanes, I think it was like 4 of the intersection available, but the ones on the outside they had roped off. And it was 3 cops there, one direct in the front of the line is, all right, you go to 12, you go to this one over here, getting them, and then 2 by the pumps themselves.
Oh, damn.
And yeah, it was like, it made me feel better, but at the same time, like, why the hell do we have to have this? Why can't people just understand shit happened?
Yeah.
Be patient. And like, everyone's just, furry. This whole thing is like, maybe see the best and worst of people.
Yeah.
Like, so, I had also somebody offer their home up to me because I didn't have one.
Oh, stop. Who's that?
and we stayed up partying all night.
Yeah, it was a real bro sleepover.
Yes, it was. Beetlejuice, movie at 4:30, and
Garbage food, alcohol.
Yeah, garbage food. Oh man, yeah.
I was still evacuated when you had to stay over here.
What time was it that we finally did dinner? Was it like 8 o'clock and drunk as shit?
8 or 9. I'm like, I gotta put something
Yeah,
on
yeah.
it. I'm like,
Totally
I'm used to
like,
having
I
already eaten.
I gotta have something. What are we doing?
More Jaeger? Okay.
Yeah. There's protein in Jaeger, right?
Dipping crackers in the Jaeger. I'm just trying to get something on there. I'm like,
Oh, saltines.
I'm not saying you have to eat right now. I'm just saying it needs to be done
Yeah,
so that we aren't cooking for an hour
cook it. Yeah.
when we're ready to do this.
But yeah, I got to see again the worst of and best of both. Like I evacuated to Winter Haven, couldn't find any gas over there, and luckily the people I was staying with over there, they had a friend who had like a bunch of gas cans for his generator and like his toys, as he called them, 4-wheeler and everything. So he gave me 5 gallons. I got back here, I assessed my place, and found out how terrible it was.
Yes.
So that Friday night, I go over to Whiskey Wings over in Largo. Very good place if anybody's ever interested in going. And
Hashtag
they had
not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. And so they had like their back part had power. So like that restaurant is like on 2 different grids apparently. So like the back side of the building is on one and the front side, like the dining part's on another one. So they had like some lights going on in there, but they were very, very dim. And you had to take your phone to the bathroom to go take a pee. But we're sitting there, and then all of a sudden the lights cut on and the jukebox cuts on with the power. And dude, that's the only time I've ever seen a grown man cry at a bar. And that grown man was me.
Yeah. It would be awesome if that song that would happen to be playing when it kicks on was that "Looks Like We Made It," like that old school. Like,
see, I thought the other way, like "Rock You Like a Hurricane" started playing.
Oh,
Scorpions.
no, it was Journey. Don't stop believing.
It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine.
Our next episode is going to be what should have been on that radio when it kicked on.
Oh, we have a very special next episode.
Oh, yes, we do.
Yes. But real quick, before we get into the episode 2, just to kind of piggyback off that, like what you were saying about like the people and like about people need to be patient. But on the plus side, also other people need to have understanding for other people, because I will say this: I didn't let my stresses get to me, although I can normally. because I understood this particular thing and I've been through these type things. I've actually lost a house in the Panhandle to a hurricane. Like nothing but pipes were there when I got back.
Damn.
So clothes and everything was gone. So I get it. But there was a couple people, like I think I got to a point, I'm in that line for an hour and a half. There's 2 cars in front of me. Costco had all their lines open. So they had like all the pumps were rocking, both on for one. So probably let's say 12, 14 pumps or something. So I got 2 cars in front of me, like, okay, those 2 are going up next. And then as I'm waiting, the one person who's finishing up gas in front of the 2 cars, actually at the pump, she's sitting there, she's filling up her gas cans, that's fine. She fills up her car, that's fine. She's been waiting in this line as long as the rest of us have. Instead of then being done, putting the gas cans back in her car, and then going to keep the line flowing and let everybody breathe a little bit, no, she decides, she's like, well, let's actually straighten up the back of the car now. This is time for that. She got her kids, she's like, oh, grab this. And I mean, went on for like 10 minutes. I'm not joking, no exaggeration, like 10 minutes of her just like folding blankets and stuff. Right. And we're like, I almost lost it for a minute. I'm like, do this at home. There's a whole parking lot. You can go drive there and then do this.
Ma'am, get in the damn car.
So that was a lot of the problem too with the fights as well, was that people were just not being considerate of other people's, like, they figure, oh, I had to wait this long, but now I'm going to take my time. It's like, no, you move on. It's like the 10 items or less line. I'm the guy that counts people's stuff. If I see 11, or you go to grab that impulse purchase of Tic Tacs, I will lose my shit.
The word of 2024 is empathy.
Yes.
Learn it and have it.
Well, no, because I've been the guy. I've been like, I go up to the line and there's nobody in line. They're like, sir, I could take you here at the 10 items. I'm like, I have 12 items. She's like, no, you can come up. I have nobody here. I'm like, I follow the rules. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. This lovely lady can go instead. Or lovely gentleman, whatever they are.
And he's got 25.
Yes. Hey, somebody else can break the rules, not me. I'm not going to be that guy. But back to apocalyptic movies, because it did look like Fury Road or Mad Max out there, just because everything was desolate. Yeah. Like, and the other funny thing,
people pulling stuff out of unit like that had no power. Like it was just pitch black in there, and they're pulling stuff out.
Yep.
You know?
Well, I wanted to do a joke. So we go to courtside. And, so the storm hit Wednesday, Wednesday afternoon-ish. Everything was basically kind of starting opening up Saturday. Courtside was going to open, but they couldn't because there was something with one of the pipes they had to get fixed first. The city wouldn't let them do it.
Yeah, the water main broke, so they didn't have toilets. So by law, they weren't allowed to open. They did
so
Sunday at like 1:30.
Yeah, they opened at, they opened, like noon, around normal time.
I went there at noon. John had to turn us away.
Oh, okay. So, whatever time they opened then, but it was funny. I was going to show up because if you see everybody, it was like nobody had seen or heard from each other, even though they all been posting together on Facebook, calling each other, texting. But it's like everyone was just in a cave for like 2 years of coming out. So I wanted to go to if a party store was open, I wanted to get like a fake beard and like rip up my clothes and put dirt on them, like come in with like a rat with a bite mark out of it.
Where have you guys been?
Look like Robin Williams from Jumanji.
Yeah. What year is it? I wanted to do like a running joke of it because everyone was walking in like, oh my God, like we haven't seen each other. It's like, it's 2027. It wasn't. It was 3 days. But it just goes to show you.
It's the longest fucking 3 days.
Yeah, I had
how much technology people are relying on because everyone was like, I didn't have my phone, I didn't have internet.
Yeah, I didn't have internet, couldn't call out.
I couldn't watch any of my streaming shows that I binge watch, and it's like, really, it's not like it wasn't like this.
I was really upset because I was sitting in 3 inches of water and couldn't watch anything.
I mean, I get that. It's like, I could see if like, you're just floating in your bed.
Yeah.
Get the fishing pole out.
Oh, this is fine. This is fine.
But on to the actual episode. So we're going to talk apocalyptic movies. So
this is movies where the apocalypse is happening or that we're seeing people live in a post-apocalyptic world.
A little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay.
Cause and effect. One leads to the other.
Exactly. And it can be localized. So Twister can even be on here.
Ooh.
The original, not the second one.
I haven't seen the second one. I heard it's not great.
Don't. Whoever watched it, that's your deal. My thing about it was, we'll talk more offline about it because it's not really the topic, but I will say this. The characters had no character. Like in the original one, everybody had a unique thing about them, like Dusty. Extreme! Everybody had their own, like,
food.
The one guy, Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off was obsessed with folding the maps.
He was like, roll the maps.
Yeah.
Why is there a giant crease through Utah?
Yeah.
Roll the maps.
Everybody had their own little unique quirk. This one, nobody was interesting. It was just like, hey, we're going to look at tornadoes and chase them. So anyway, we'll talk more offline about that, or we'll do an episode about what we thought about it. But the Apocalypse movies, I would say for me, if you don't mind me kicking off, just since we'll just do favorite ones, it's an old school one. It's classic. I will say it's not the original, Mad Max. And I don't believe it was called Mad Max. What was it? Road Warrior was the original one.
It was original.
I was a bigger fan of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yep.
Because who doesn't love Tina Turner controlling a bunch of people that you have to
That's
fight?
the only one of the original trilogy I've seen.
Bust the deal, face the wheel.
Yeah.
All the rhymes in there.
I will say
Who run Bartertown? Master Blaster.
Yeah, Master Blaster.
I will say the remake with Tom Hardy is not awful. I didn't hate it. I didn't see.
What was that?
No, that was just
Furiosa?
called Mad Max.
It was just Mad Max, yeah.
Yeah, Furiosa came out.
That's the sequel,
Yeah,
right?
and
Yeah.
I heard that one was crap.
Well, Furiosa was the prequel.
Yeah.
But I heard it was garbage.
Yeah.
But those were the types of movies where they always had like a little kid as a big supporter. Because if you remember, in I think it was in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, they had that little kid was in there. I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl.
Yeah,
that blonde-haired kid.
Right, wearing the fur and had the metal hand.
Yeah. So like
To
kind
catch
of
the boomerang.
yeah, kind of remind me of like Aliens, where they
Yeah.
had Newt, the little girl in there. I'm like, those movies back then.
Who
around
directed
that time-
Aliens again, by the way?
Oh, I don't know.
Your mama.
Why are we so wildly poor?
Your mom goes to college. Jackass.
She did go to college. She went to SUNY. She went to
Shut
Sunnybrook.
She went to SUNY, so sue me. That's mine.
That's
about you?
Solid one. Mr. Gavin, since it's your topic, I'll let you go second.
I would have to say probably my favorite one, and just because of the spin that came about it, was Oblivion.
Okay. I'm glad I had a backup.
Was that yours?
Yeah.
Damn it. I'm sorry.
Well, when I did my homework a few years ago, that was like the favorite
The
movie.
first, yeah.
Yeah, that one was really good.
And yeah, I mean, who doesn't want Tom Cruise and Morgan Freeman sharing the screen?
Right?
Like, but yeah, that's just the going out like over the wasteland, but the structures that still stand, like the I think was it like the Vikings field.
Yeah.
That was still standing, so he goes in there to line up the Super Bowl kick from history that he's read.
And he gets into the top part of the Washington Monument to
Yeah.
go meet the leaders.
Yep.
But it
So it's-
introduces just enough lore to like not give you enough like a lot of questions, but you still have a couple of questions
Yeah.
at the end.
Right.
Like there could easily be a sequel to that movie, and I'm here for it.
I mean, or
I'm waiting for
rather a prequel, like to show
Like how it
the
actually
actual
happened.
devastation. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that'd be
the war that happened beforehand.
Yeah,
Because
that'd be
because as they described it, it was the quakes that took out most of the world because they blew up the moon, and then it was and then to wipe out what was left was the
And then you could see the Tom Cruise like mission to go up to and see how he gets captured and cloned and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. Spoilers.
Yeah, don't spoil it, man.
not spoiling.
You know what's interesting? The only movie where you think like Terminator, like the fourth Terminator, kind of explained it all. But if you really think about it, that's one where they show when the actual war is going on. But if you
that
really,
the one
really
with
think
Christian?
about it, it's like the original movie is technically should be the prequel because it's before all it happened. But
Yeah.
it doesn't happen until we see this other stuff happen in the future before they go back in time. So the future is actually the prequel of the
Welcome to
present.
time travel.
I'm fine. All right, just a little aneurysm there, and all right.
You heard loud circus music.
Afro circus, Afro circus.
What about you?
Well, mine was going to be Oblivion, but it was it was tied with another one. I was going to flip a coin basically to see which one, but now that Mr. Gavin has removed one of the options, I'm going to have to say Escape from L.A.
See, he wanted that to begin with. I already knew it.
Nope.
I already knew it.
I still don't know why you like LA better than New York.
I don't know.
I think LA's more fun than New York. New York is just dark. LA had a lot more humor in it and felt more upbeat.
And it definitely had like a better supporting cast of characters.
I agree with that.
Bruce
Yeah.
Campbell was the psychotic plastic surgeon. The Che Guevara guy in charge was evil but charismatic. I liked him.
And you got Steve Buscemi.
Yep. The
Flying on gliders and gliders.
Yep. But I just think it's an all around better movie. Don't get me wrong. I love Escape from New York. Love it. Watch it a million times. but I like Escape from LA a little bit better. And that one's a little bit more. You can see like the world has gone through an event of apocalyptic proportions.
Still is.
Yes, right.
You got the Ronald Reagan look-alike trying to like destroy Brazil with satellite EMP forces.
Yeah.
And then, but they start listing off all the things you can't do in America anymore. You can't smoke cigarettes, can't eat red meat. There's no salt. There's no pepper.
No sex, unless of course you're married. Like what?
It-
I mean, yeah. No sex, kids.
Good Christian.
Yeah.
Been around there. Good
you
Christian
saved
been
it
around.
at the end.
Yeah.
You really did.
Born again in a matter of seconds.
But then St. Pliskin just destroys the Earth. Does the global EMP. I generally like that movie. It's a really good one. One of John Carpenter's best, in my opinion. Actually, I read it in
Did he direct Aliens?
Now
John
you're just asking. Now you're asking for a fight.
Oh, you're about to see an apocalypse right now.
We can talk about Apocalypse now.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Hey, Dennis Hopper hopped up on coke. There's nothing better than that.
No.
But yeah, so mine is Escape
Okay.
from LA.
There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all, James Cameron.
I like Ridley Scott's version better.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with either version. Just know who directed which one.
We'll say I like Aliens more just because there's more than one alien.
Yeah, hence the name.
Yeah.
That's why the
hence
third one
the
became
plurality.
Alien 3. Alien 3. Because there was only one.
Yeah, I fell asleep like halfway through that third one.
You were not missing much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really later on until they started doing the newer versions of it, like Prometheus and the newer
Yeah.
prequel type things,
That third one, though, like Sigourney Weaver shaves her head, and then you see one little baby alien pop out of like some dude, and then scurry away. I was like, oh, okay, that's gonna be the movie now.
Yep.
Okay, and then fell asleep like 5 minutes later. Like the movie was just boring compared to the other ones.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Yeah.
I will say that. I mean, I watched it just to say I saw them all, but I wouldn't run to buy it right now.
Yeah.
Or say, hey guys, you know what we should do today? Watch Alien 3.
Can we watch the first two first? Absolutely not.
No.
It's a triumph of cinema.
It's right up there with Cocaine Bear.
Yes.
Hey, that is a triumph of cinema.
That is a
damn it.
triumph of cinema.
Shut your damn whore mouth.
Well, then you have, movies that even though technically didn't cause really an apocalypse, but so I'm going to ask you if you would consider this The Day After Tomorrow. It did create a lot of world.
It was an
Destruction.
apocalyptic event, so I would say The Day After Tomorrow, yes.
Okay.
The movie that you have pulled up right there, I would say no, just because.
Oh, this is just on a list. I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that one I don't consider that.
So, but,
Could have caused one.
yeah,
but
but
they
the
avoided.
heroes won at the end.
Yes.
So, real quick, Tony had on his phone the movie Armageddon, which very good movie. One of the few movies that will always cause me to tear up at the end. But I wouldn't call it an apocalyptic because the heroes win. They get the asteroid to split in two.
Yeah.
But the reverse of that, Deep Impact, I would call an apocalypse movie because the two actually hit Earth.
Yeah. But the waters receded, as Morgan Freeman said
Yes.
in his epic speech.
It's Morgan Freeman. Every speech he gives
Yes.
is epic.
Everything he says is epic.
Right?
Welcome to Rug World. Look at how the carpet stretches from wall to wall. Morgan, stop it. We don't have any rugs anymore. We've sold out.
You're killing me, Morgan. You're killing me.
I got to get another shipment in, damn it.
So here's one. Again, I want to see what you think because I'm pretty sure you said you've seen this movie.
We'll find out.
I'm pretty sure because I think we've talked about it before. I don't know if I call it apocalyptic, but it is about things getting destroyed and figuring out the Langoliers.
Oh,
It's more about time getting
I
destroyed.
love that movie. And yes, I don't know if I would call that.
I wouldn't call it apocalyptic, but it's like everything's gone though.
I want to dedicate an entire episode to that movie. If you haven't
You
seen
heard it here first.
It's a straight to DVD movie based off a Stephen King book. It is trippy, weird, and awesome. I love that. It's giant balls of teeth that eat the past. So you can never really time travel in this because the balls of teeth eat the past. So there's nothing to go to when you travel back in time.
Once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah. So quick synopsis: this plane goes through a time vortex or whatever, and they wind up in the past just before the Langoliers start chomping down.
And it's only certain people. Because they had to be asleep, if I remember correctly. Is
Yeah,
that what it was?
They had to be
They
asleep.
all happened to be asleep when this event occurred, or this plane went through this whatever it went through.
So it
And
wasn't the
anybody-
whole plane. It was just
them.
Yeah.
So, and they were trying to figure out like why, and it's of course Peter Falk.
Yep.
Mr. Columbo.
Ah.
As his normal, he wasn't Columbo, but as his Columbo-ish self, he was like the mystery writer or something, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
something like that.
So
It's been years. Since
he's
I've
trying
seen
to
this
play
movie.
out like figure out the clues and like what could have happened.
And they find out like time is still present in the plane. So when they get into the airport, the air is stale. There's no carbonation and everything. Everything is stale and dead basically. But they figure out time is still active on the plane. So if they can get the plane into the air and go back through it, they'll get back to the present.
Yeah, and you get to see at some point like everything getting eaten away. So it's the Langoliers are coming back, and they just look like
Balls with-
like mutant Pac-Man,
Yeah.
Ow, ow,
like
ow, ow.
razor sharp Pac-Man.
Yeah, but they have 3 mouths and they all have chainsaw teeth.
Yeah.
Oh.
And
Yeah, because they have to be able to eat everything efficiently.
it was very ropey CGI. Like this is very 90s CGI.
Yeah,
like back then,
Lawnmower
everyone,
Man style.
yeah, but everyone looking at it back then would be like, "Oh, damn, that's awesome." Nowadays, like, the fuck was I thinking?
That's something.
Yeah, that is
That is,
definitely technology from the 90s. That's
right?
what that is.
That's a good try right there.
That is one thing I will say about Star Wars. You don't look back on it and say, "Man, that was shit." No, it actually still stands up. That and frickin' Jurassic Park.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so we had Jurassic Park in 94 and we had Langoliers in 96, and there was a wild difference between the CGI in those movies.
Well, you got Steven Spielberg's budget.
Yeah. And then
Because
you got,
at that point, he basically could just tell the studio, "I want $200 million," and they would just hand it to him.
yeah, that's true.
Because they know they're going to make it
And
back.
I think they partnered with Lucas Entertainment on that.
They
didn't
might have. They probably
the
did. I mean,
Lucas FX.
Well, I
think
know
is what it
Steven
was.
Spielberg and George Lucas have worked together like
Yeah,
a
they're
bunch of
good
times.
friends, yeah.
So
Well, I don't know
Steven
about-
Spielberg knows basically everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like there's not somebody that he really doesn't know.
No.
you got to think that Lucasfilm also had like animatronics knowledge that rivaled like Disney Imagineers at that point.
Yep.
All right.
All right,
And
then.
moving back.
And moving back to
Back to
apocalyptic
apocalypse
film.
movies.
So you got the day after. That's an old school movie. That was
I've never heard
made
of it.
in I think it was in the 80s, and they did a little bit on it on that show, The Goldbergs. The show I told you about. That's all about the 80s. And it's like they made warnings to everybody, like, kids, this is not appropriate for kids to watch. And of course, every
Yeah.
kid wanted to stay up and watch it, and it freaked everybody out. It's basically about nuclear warfare.
Oh.
And it's basically this one town, small town. I can't remember where they're actually located, but it's like, I don't know if it's like Midwest but it's like country type town, and where all the silos are at and everything.
Oh yeah, like Wyoming or Kansas, where all
Yeah.
they're buried in the farm fields.
Yep.
And stuff
So
like that.
basically, nuclear attacks happen, and it's about all the people and them trying to survive afterwards. So like people are affected with radiation, and it's an interesting movie, but it scared a lot of people. You got to remember it's in the 80s.
So it was like the height of the Cold War.
Yeah.
Yeah, when that was a
Yeah, Russia
threat.
was still a
Yep.
big threat then.
Not as much of a scare as like, let's say back in the 50s and 60s. Back, remember when all
Yeah.
the kids had those drills? If you hear the nuclear thing, get under your desk.
Get under your desk.
'Cause
Get
that's-
under get under kindling. That's what you need to do.
That's gonna stop heat and fire and radiation from getting to you. Because there's nothing around you under that desk. It's
Yeah.
just the piece of wood and these 4 metal legs. I'm solid.
I
It's the best they could do. What do you?
It's like hiding from a monster underneath your blanket. Like, ooh, that'll really stop the
Hey,
claws.
that does work.
yeah.
It saved me till I was 14.
Cutting back to the hurricane deal, it was like there was a meme that was going around. It was like everyone saying you need to evacuate if you're in zone A, B, C, or D. Me in middle school or kindergarten sitting under my desk because a nuclear bomb was gonna hit. It's like, no, there's a big storm coming in. You gotta leave. Nuclear strike. Oh, you're fine. Stay where you are.
That's solid oak wood.
That
right
is- yeah.
there. That thing, nothing's gonna get.
And that is pure steel that's holding that desk up.
Your face will melt, but no beam will
Yeah,
hit
yeah.
your head and hurt you.
I think their theory was it'll be over before you know it, so don't even worry. This is to give you some semblance of security.
They just didn't want to have to spend their last couple minutes like chasing a bunch of kids.
Yeah, right.
In a straight line. In a straight line. Give me that gum.
Did you
and
bring
then-
enough for the rest of the class?
And then we all melt. But yeah, so that movie was like a lot of the aftermath of it. It was only a couple areas that got hit in that movie, but yeah, it's basically that scared a lot of people because they
I'm listening to it and I'm getting scared.
the day after. So that's a good one. So here's the thing: we got to figure out when we say post-apocalyptic, is it any type of apocalypse? Because you have movies like This Is the End, where it's more religion. Well,
Yeah.
as much as you can make a humorous movie like that really be about religion, that's really what it was.
Yeah. But it was angels and demons and that kind of stuff.
Or like zombie apocalypse, like Zombieland.
Yep.
Yep.
World War Z.
World War Z. I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. Yeah.
So my next movie I wanted to talk about deals with like something has happened to the Earth, and human race can't really survive on the surface.
Day
anymore.
After Tomorrow.
No, Snowpiercer
Ah.
Okay.
with
Yep.
Chris Evans.
Yeah,
That was a weird one.
it's a wild goose chase of a movie,
Yeah.
and it's
I didn't think it was going to be that good, but towards the end I was like, holy shit, this movie actually kicks ass.
Well, they came out with a show for it too.
I saw that. I never saw it. Saw the movie.
Yeah, I saw the movie. I never watched the show.
And if you haven't seen Snowpiercer, please go do. But there is a scene where Chris Evans finds out all those gel food packs that they're eating is just
The protein bars.
yeah, it's just ground up huge hissing cockroaches that they're just putting into a mincer.
Yeah.
So that's when he decides to revolt and then kicks in the upper class doors and starts going.
Actually,
ham.
decided to revolt before that.
That's true.
And then it got worse after he was like, well, we control the water car. Why do we need to go further? And then he finds that out. I was like,
Yep.
All right, we're going to the rich people car.
Yep.
yeah. And they get up there and they're like, oh, we have sushi once a year. Wait, so we're eating bugs and you guys are having fresh fish once a year.
Oh, was that I?
Yeah. Was the ahi over there?
But we don't have wasabi to go with it. It was like, oh, the pains. I'm so sorry.
Oh, we only got the low sodium soy.
Yeah.
I actually kind of think that tastes better.
Yeah. But when you get to the end and you finally meet Wilfred and you find out that basically all those revolts were intended. Mm-hmm. because, food starts dwindling on the train. So how do you
cull the population.
how do you prevent that? You either, some people die of starvation or you have a revolt and allow people from both sides to go, because if you have only the backside dying and not the front side, it's still not fair. The problem still persists. Like, damn, this is freaking human engineering at its finest. Worst. Or most basic, like Thanos took notes from this movie.
If nothing else, it's very creative.
Oh, it's very
It was
creative.
very creative. I genuinely, I didn't think I was going to like that movie as much as I did. It was very good.
See, what we need to do is just do a Hunger Games. That's what this world needs. We need to have a worldwide Hunger Games every year or every couple of years.
It's called The Purge, and I don't think we
when
can
they're
handle that.
when they're in that one car and they're still all fighting, and then they stop and they do a countdown like 5, 4, 3, 2, Happy New Year, and then they start fighting again. Like, what the hell?
Well, now one I know, because if someone that we know hears this and doesn't hear me mention it, I would probably get in trouble. So it'd be like, dude, why didn't you mention it? Night of the Comet?
Never heard of it.
Doesn't surprise me. I actually have talked about it, I believe, before.
I don't know
but
if I've
it's,
seen that, though.
So the girl, I can't remember her real name off the top of my head, but the one that played the girlfriend in The Last Starfighter
Oh, okay.
is the main character in this movie, and it's her and her sister, and there's a comet that's going to be coming over, and so everybody's like all celebrating. Well, she ends up falling asleep. I think she works in a movie theater, and her boyfriend comes in. They fooling around. It's typical 80s. There's always going to have some kind of sexual thing in there.
Yep.
And so she ends up they end up falling asleep in the theater, and she has a younger sister, and I can't remember her younger sister ended up staying or going to bed early or something, but basically the next day it's like everything's desolate. Like there's nothing around, barely any people around, and those who are around are starting to turn into these like zombie-like things.
Against cannibal zombies and a sinister group of scientists.
Yep. And so the scientists, they figured, I can't remember if they actually knew what would happen if it passed over or if they were experimenting afterwards. But they basically had this whole facility set up, so I'm pretty sure they had a good idea. And so they were like
They knew
testing
something
it.
would happen, maybe not what.
Yeah, they were testing out the effects of it. So basically, it's kind of like I Am Legend, but with a few more people. But it's actually it's a good movie because then you
I'm
get back
watching
to
the trailer right now. It looks fun.
Yeah, you get back to the old '80s style, and they're hanging out in the mall. They can do whatever they want, and then occasionally they have to fight off a hungry, crazed zombie person thing.
Yeah.
So Night of the Comet. If you haven't seen, and that was the other thing too, the people, everything else, there's like all this like little powdered dust piles. So that's basically the people. They like dehydrate or turn into this stuff. But it is a fun movie.
Dehydrate.
Fun fact: if you've seen Star Trek Voyager, Chakotay is in this film. He plays a character named Hector Gomez.
I'm trying to think. Chakotay. Oh yes. Yeah, I think he's like the other main character. I think in the movie.
Okay.
I think he's the guy that shows up that ends up becoming the love interest after her boyfriend's dead.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He got exposed, I guess.
My boyfriend's dead and I gotta fill his slot now.
Hey now.
My boyfriend's dead.
So if you haven't seen it, ladies and gentlemen, I recommend Night of the Comet. It's a good, fun watch.
Streaming on Roku.
On Roku now.
Or you can also see Movie Talks and Chill. Rather hear us.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can tell you exactly where to find
We
it.
can tell you exactly.
Smash that like button.
So, Mr. Gavin, you've been quiet for a while. What movie would you like to talk about?
I mean, I like probably one of the ones that I liked growing up because it was an early or rather late 90s movie was Rate of Fire.
Oh, the Dragon one with Christian Bale.
Christian Bale and Gerard Butler.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in
And Matthew McConaughey.
Oh.
Matthew McConaughey was probably like the biggest star in there at the time because Christian Bale and Gerard Butler hadn't really taken off. But they were, this kind of helped add to their film career on it. And
Didn't that movie get like panned in the regular?
oh yeah, they had terrible reviews. Terrible. So it basically what happened was that they awoke a dragon. And they believe it was just there's like only one male, and all the rest of them are females.
So he got busy.
Yeah, so he got busy, very busy. But didn't matter what they threw at him. Tanks, nuclear warheads, whatever. Like they thrived on ash.
Oh.
Every time they'd shoot one down, two more would come up, and they just couldn't keep up with the. Every time they would knock one down, they'd take losses. They couldn't just recoup the attrition that came in. So then they were just, going around and everybody started hiding. It's the easiest thing to do. Yeah. Until they go fight the bull in London and then they tracked him, the bull tracks him back and blows up their castle.
Oh. That'll happen.
That was
It does happen.
it's when Gerard Butler
You don't poke the bull.
It's when Gerard Butler left. But they had a cool scene in there where they're trying to, they're basically, teaching the kids that they have now. They're trying to get them to this play night or whatever. And so they're doing Star Wars. And so Christian Bale cuts off, or rather Gerard Butler cuts off Christian Bale's hand. And the kids are like, oh my God. They're like freaking out. And he's like, no. He pulls it out of his sleeve. It's like, it's fine. It's just for show.
It's like in Zombieland where Bill Murray comes out dressed like the zombie and they kill him. Like, it was a joke. We didn't have to do that.
Yeah, right. Well, he didn't they were using fake lightsabers and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't really cut in and throw a fake hand at him. He just pulled it down. But yeah, that was a good one as in seeing, because everything that they were trying to do was, start out a life on, they had to cover their fields because, if a dragon came over and saw it, it was fresh field, they would burn it and basically eat off the ash of that live. That's what their food was, basically. They didn't really care about human beings. They were just more of, a nuisance.
Oh.
Yeah, there wasn't a food source thing. It was we're just going to burn the shit out of this planet thing. Hence fire. Fire. Fire.
Fire from my bunghole.
Well, have you seen the one? It was it came out in 2000, I believe 2011. It was an interesting movie. It's about Well, the movie kind of takes a couple different turns. It's called Take Shelter. Have you ever seen that? So Michael Shannon, he's the guy that played General Zod in Man of Steel,
Yep.
Oh, okay.
and he's been in a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
seen him in. He gets this basically like I can't remember if it's like a vision or if it's a dream or whatever, but that the end of the world is coming, that something bad is going to happen. So he basically starts spending all their money and everything on building this protection like shelter underneath the ground, like kind of like a bomb shelter type thing, for whatever it is that's going to be coming. And the whole movie is him prepping for this and kind of like how he starts detaching from everybody, and everybody starts thinking like his wife. He's got a wife and a kid, but they're in a town. He works construction, but people start thinking he's going nuts, and people start, well, he's crazy, he's delusional, he ends up losing.
Because he is nuts.
He ends up like losing his job and all this other stuff, but the whole point is so that they can just be protected, and then this big storm ends up coming through. I think that's what it is. He sees a storm come through in like this vision, and so he gets gets everybody in the shelter, and he's trying to keep his wife and kid down there, and the wife's trying to tell him, hey, everything's fine, we can go back up. And he finally goes back up, and I'm just going to say this. At that moment, nothing happens. And then the end of the movie, which comes about 20 minutes later, takes a big twist.
Nice.
So, I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it. But I would say watch that movie because it doesn't carry into the aftermath, but it does explain like a leading to a world event.
Nice.
Okay.
Or at least an event for a specific area,
It reminds me a little bit about the movie Knowing with Nick Cage.
Yeah.
That's an apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
That movie freaked me out. If you haven't seen it, Nicolas Cage finds a piece of notepad with just a string of numbers, and he's an MIT professor, astrophysicist, and he figures out like their longitude, latitudes, and number of people that will die at that location. And he figures out he's already by the time he finds his pages, he's at the last line. So he's got like 3 more events, and then it just says EE. So you spend the whole movie trying to figure out what does EE mean, and you find he finds out the person who wrote this, and she was mentally ill apparently, but EE stood for everybody else. So the end of the movie, it's also a giant metaphor for Adam and Eve and how the world was populated. But it's a solar flare that just nukes the planet, basically. That movie scared the crap out of me, not gonna lie. Because the quote-unquote, the people that they don't refer, but like you were supposed to infer that they are angels and all that, they're scary. Like they just pop up, stand there, no smile, no nothing, and then they just like start taking children. It's just weird.
Well, nobody wants to just get taken. I mean, angels are always depicted a lot of times as creepy people.
Yeah, not even Liam Neeson.
Yeah, right?
What did Deadpool say? At one point, you gotta start asking yourself if he's just a
He's
bad
just a
parent.
bad dad. Oh my God, read the room.
So we haven't talked a lot about zombie movies, but World War Z, that's probably one of my favorites.
Fast-moving zombies.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it's a really good apocalypse movie because the movie starts out with basically the apocalypse happening.
It's
And
it's going
day
to happen.
one. And then, Brad Pitt is a former mercenary or someone. So he's tasked by his old unit commander. Like, we have to go to, where'd they go first? Africa? Like Egypt?
He's an investigator that's been, he's like had training.
Yeah.
He's not military, but he's, been militarily trained. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was the UN that he worked for.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but like to get his family safely onto like a battleship, he needs to go do this job for the admiral.
Yeah. Everyone that's there has to be
Useful.
important personnel.
Yeah. So they send him and his team to, I believe it's Egypt first, to go look for something. No?
Korea.
Was it Korea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He goes to Korea first because that was the
That was the lab, like, or something?
no, like that was the first notification they had of the word zombie.
Oh, okay.
And it was from like one of the agents, like they rescued some guy who had went to northern Korea and then came back to the base, and then he ended up biting and like freaking out the whole room.
Oh, Gotcha. But it's a really
But
good.
then
movie.
they go to Jerusalem after that.
Jerusalem.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's what I was thinking of. And then they find the lab, and like, I think what Brad Pitt has to give himself like tuberculosis or something, so the zombies don't eat him.
Yeah, he had to have some like life debilitating disease, but was curable.
Yeah.
And he couldn't get anyone to tell him what it was because everything went silent.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, if he took anything from the top panel down, he's instantly dead anyway. But if he takes it from the middle, he's okay. And he's just like sitting there thinking,
Wait a minute.
which of these do I stick myself with?
Right. Well, I was recently watching The Rock, and at the very beginning, he's like, "Take the atropine." He's like, "You want me to stick this in my heart?
Yeah.
Get me the
Giant
fuck
needle.
out of here."
Hey, unless
love
you want
that
your
movie.
face to melt off.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be hard to do, but I could figure out a way to get it done. If they said,
Yeah.
you're going to mutate,
You either stick that in your heart or you gonna die.
Yeah.
He gonna kill you.
But yeah, World War Z. I know it's based off a book, and I heard the book is like very good. I've just never gotten around to reading it.
They're supposed to be coming out with a second one too, I think.
Ooh, book or movie?
I think the book's already done.
Oh,
but
okay.
The movie.
Nice. I look forward to that. It's one of my favorite zombie movies.
Yeah.
see, I don't know why they put this in the category because I don't agree with that at all. But IMDb has like the best 100 best apocalyptic movies. The Perfect Storm is in there. I'm like, that wasn't an apocalyptic movie.
No,
I mean,
one for George Clooney.
for 3 boats, but
Yeah, I know. It's like, yeah, for them it sucks.
Yeah.
George
But,
Clooney's
you know,
world got destroyed.
what about what do you think of The Mist?
I
So-
like that one.
Would you consider it that though? Because they never really answered the question at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you never really know how far out that went.
Yeah.
If it
Like,
was
was it-
just that town.
Yeah.
Even just that grocery store or wherever they were held up.
Oh, it went farther than that.
Oh, okay.
Because when he goes back to his home, his wife's dead because the hole in the house was still there that he didn't get a
I
chance to
forgot
fix.
about that. Yeah.
So it went throughout the whole town.
Also, the ending to that movie is so
Oh,
fucked up.
dude.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So they didn't. You got to explain there, but it didn't go any further than that. So
Yeah.
you didn't know if there was.
I wouldn't consider that an apocalyptic movie.
Okay.
It's messed up, but
I would say yes because like
if the mist was in the entire planet, then
But-
yes.
But you
But,
don't know.
like-
Yeah.
It was never explained. That's what I'm
Exactly.
saying.
But also the whole thing was like all the dynamic that started like everything started out fine in that grocery store, but then it started getting angsty, and then the religious sect formed, and then. Then that's when it becomes apocalyptic when you have a religious sect, whether it be Christianity, whatever, and it forms, and that's what rises up to take power. That's apocalyptic.
In a grocery store.
Yes.
I don't
I
know.
could still remember there's one scene where like it looks like a tiny little bug is flying up to the grocery store, and you're looking at it like you're following it, and then it lands on the window, and it's the size of my torso.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That or the plant tentacle coming out of like the door and
Yeah,
the
the
receiving.
garage door.
from outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie that messed me up. Not gonna lie. I usually like it like fall or spring mornings when I wake up and there's like a nice like layer of fog out there, and now it's like I'm glad I live 4 stories
yeah,
up.
Yeah, now you're like, nope.
I'm calling off work today. I'm not going outside in that.
Wasn't there a movie similar to that where it was like a new like mid or late like the mid 2000s? It was supposed to be like a horror type movie, maybe not horror but suspense. There's people in a bunch of friends at a cabin, and there was something with mist or something on the outside that they went outside. It started like burning like their skin off. And so they had to figure out a way to keep everything out. Like they had to seal all the windows and like cover it. I can't remember what the name is. I got to find that out. But that actually wasn't that bad. But yeah, if you went out there for too long or you were exposed to it. And I think there's like one scene where it's like the one person's
Be careful
in the
when
shower.
you search burning mist. You might get
Yeah.
a lot of porn.
Well, you could search like cabin mist movies. And if I heard it, I may know if it's the one I'm talking about. But yeah, there's something about the actual stuff in the atmosphere that
Interesting.
it just like melts their skin off. But while you're looking for that, on a fun note, Shaun of the Dead. You're my best friend.
Da, da, da.
We go
When I go to the Winchester
ride it all.
and I ride it all out. You just want to go to your dang
It's called
bar.
Cabin Fever.
Is that the one? No, that's not the one.
Five
Cabin-
college graduates rent a cabin in the woods and begin to fall victim to horrifying flesh-eating virus, which attacks.
That's a
unwanted-
different one. So
Oh.
that's more of just like a virus type thing. I'm talking about this is actually like mist or like
Wrong.
steam that you can see.
Wrong death cabin.
But that is not a bad movie either. But that one's strictly a virus one.
Yeah, but I searched for
Burning
cabin
flesh.
burning mist movie, and the only thing that comes up is The Mist.
I've got to find out what it is then.
I know we've got a couple of minutes left.
Yes.
So can I talk about two movies real quick?
You can talk about
One
two
is really
movies.
good and one's really awful. I want to tear a new asshole into.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Well,
So the first one, the good one, Army of the Dead with Dave Bautista.
Yeah.
okay.
I really like that one. It definitely adds a little bit more to zombie lore that we're used to. Like the alpha is actually sentient. You know, he can actually think, command.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to birth a baby that they kill. They chop off her head. But it's definitely a really fun one, especially after like everybody watched this movie when it first came on Netflix because it was very good. And then there's a scene where they're trying to break into the vault and they find two dead people, and everyone
And they look like
yeah.
the people that are actually there.
hmm And everyone is like, I wonder if this is like a time loop scenario. This isn't the first time these people have done this job. Zack Snyder, like a week later, is like, yeah, you figured it out. 100%.
No, they even bring it up in the movie too. The
black guy does.
Him and the guy who's the safecracker.
Yeah.
Can't remember. Is he German?
Russia, it's some.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a very thick accent.
Yes, yes, he does. I think it's German, but one of the Eastern European countries.
Yeah. I will say one of my favorite characters in that movie is the helicopter pilot. She's like pumping gas, smoking a cigarette. She's like, $3 million? Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I got it.
And she goes upstairs and she finds a helicopter. She's like, I'll make this work. 5 days, I guess.
Yeah.
They're like, well, you have 3 hours. She's like, well, I'll get to work. So Army of the Dead, that's a really good apocalypse zombie movie. Like I said, adds in a lot of different lore, and Siegfried's tiger is missing an eye and chopping down on people.
And at that point, I think it was only centered around Las Vegas.
Yeah,
The
'cause
outbreak.
they walled it off almost
Yeah.
immediately. But I think at the end of the movie, Dave Bautista, spoilers, Dave Bautista gets bitten as he's escaping and he's getting into the world. I think it's like supposed to be implying that he just became the new alpha, or because he got bit by the alpha or something like that. So they didn't make a sequel, they made a prequel, and it was all right.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it. It's just Army of the Dead was way better.
That
Army of
man.
Thieves, right?
Yeah, something like that. It mainly stars the safecracker.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was okay.
And if you check it at the end of it, there's a news story about Vegas.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I must have missed that.
at the very end scene.
Okay.
Yeah, there. Here's on the radio. You hear something. So strange outbreak or strange news coming from Las Vegas, Nevada, and the U.S.
I can't find it. I'll have to search
It's a little
offline to
Easter
find it.
egg.
Yeah.
So what's the second one?
This movie I wanted to like so much. It was made by Roland Emmerich, and if you don't know who he is, he directed the original Independence Day, and he did the original Stargate movie. This guy was really big in sci-fi back in the 90s. He was really good, and then unfortunately he made the sequel to Independence Day, which was terrible. I even went and saw it in the theaters because I remember there was an article saying if this movie does well, they're going to greenlight a reboot of Stargate into a trilogy directed by Roland Emmerich. I was like, yes, please. Yep. But that movie tanked so hard. Yeah,
He actually owed money at the end.
probably. But then after that flop, apparently he got picked up to do a movie called Moonfall, starring Patrick Wilson. That movie was so terrible. It was so bad.
I didn't watch it.
Good. Like, it's a really good disaster premise. Like, the moon is falling into Earth. What is this going to do to the tides? What's this going to do to the planet? And all that kind of stuff. And half the movie is Patrick Wilson is a former astronaut. And he escapes to LA when this first starts happening. And you could see, like, a CGI LA in the distance, but you only see this one shitty little motel. And they're like, yes, we're in LA. You can't prove it otherwise.
Prove it.
I dare you to prove it.
Yeah. And then, he gets recruited by Halle Berry to take up the space shuttle to go up to the moon to see what the fuck is going on. I'm pretty sure if the moon is only about 5 miles away from the planet, finding out what's wrong is the least of your concerns at this point. And then it takes a wild third act twist where you find out the moon is actually harboring an evil alien and they have to go in there and destroy it. And one of the guys dies, and then the alien, the computer Contact takes on his form and talks to Patrick Wilson. It's like, oh, we have a lot of work to do.
And the moon is actually the egg that
Yeah.
it's hatching from.
That's
and
hatching,
it needs the
yeah.
gravity to actually break the egg open. And the alien, so that's,
Yeah.
Moon 2. Moonfall Part 2.
Yeah. Well, there's
Back in
The
the
hatching.
habit.
The
The
hatching.
hatching.
there's another a subplot of the guy from the first Ant-Man who's like, my dad died, I lost my dog, but I got the van though. I can't remember who that guy is. You know who I'm
I know
talking
you're talking about
though.
the Hispanic guy.
Yeah.
the funny one. He's
But
in
Michael
everything.
Pena.
Yeah,
Yeah, Michael Pena. So he's in this movie. He's just like a stepdad to Patrick Wilson's kid, but he's trying to get them to this bunker in the Alps or whatever. And this was probably the only coolest part where the moon gets so close it's actually starting to affect the gravity on Earth. So he's driving and then he's floating and then he's crashing back down. It was actually kind of cool, but that's the only part of the movie.
All right.
Yeah, Moonfall is not a great movie. I used to love Roland Emmerich. Now, if his name's attached to anything, I'll wait till DVD.
Well, on that note, we are just now out of time.
We always like to end on a happy note.
Yes. But no, on a personally up note or whatever, to all those out there as we go back to the idea of the hurricane and everything, we do hope everybody gets back on their feet very quickly. Any damages or lost, anything, hope that gets recouped.
You forget to talk about Waterworld.
Well, we can talk about that later. On part 2 of Apocalyptic Movies, because I hear there's another Atlantic formation coming on, so we can redo this all again. But no, we do hope everybody who's out there was safe, didn't lose too much, or if you lost everything, it can be recuperated. And at the end of the day, you're still alive and you have your family. Things are just things. So
Yep.
at least there's that.
Indeed.
But we will continue to, come on. We do have an exciting episode next week.
It's the Halloween
Yes,
episode.
for Halloween, Patrick, since he made us watch those Hallmark movies.
This
He's now
is just
gonna-
going to be a vicious cycle.
Yes.
Every Christmas we're watching Hallmark movies, and every Halloween I'm watching 2 scary movies that these 2 gentlemen have picked.
And then
for
every
me.
Halloween, he has to lose a pair of underwear.
That was a good 3 years, right?
Yeah,
Three and a
right?
half years, fellas? No. But Patrick will be watching 2 scary movies.
And I don't want to tell you, I have the
Yeah,
names and I
he's
have
got
my
'em.
homework.
And so we'll be discussing
This is going to be a
Halloween
rough week, folks. Not
Yes.
gonna lie.
Yes, he may come
One of
in.
them is not going to be too bad for you. It's going to be more of a mind fuck than
Yeah.
anything.
So you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still stopping by the liquor store.
You can always phone a friend.
I was going to say, I'll hear him one night. Why did you recommend this movie? What the hell is going on right here?
In the middle of the night, he's going to call you like 2 in the
Pat-
afternoon.
I was like, Patrick, it's 2 in the morning.
No. Tony's right. It'll be 2 in the afternoon. You'll be at work.
He'll be watching it while eating eggs.
Patrick, I'm putting trades in. I cannot answer. All right, just tell me what is going. How many times have you watched it?
But yeah, so we will be finding out what Patrick thinks of the lovely horror movies we picked out for him. You'll find out next week when we return. But until then, for Movie Talks and Chill, we're your hosts. I'm Tony Serrato.
I've got my butts.
I'm worried.
All right, guys, take care.
Patrick Wall.